Thank you. Thank you, Jill. We are thrilled to be partnering with the 92nd Street Y on this panel commemorating the 35th birthday of New 42. Our panelists have extensive and incredibly impressive credits. If I were to go through them, we would be here all day. So I am going to keep it short. So please help me welcome Tony Award winner Celia Keenan-Bolger, who you know from To Kill a Mockingbird, The Gilded Age. Celia is the 2025 recipient of the Isabel Stevenson Award for your work in humanitarian efforts. Next is J. Harrison Ghee, who won both a Tony and Grammy for Some Like It Hot. Please welcome Emmy and Golden Globe winner Jim Parsons, who you know from The Big Bang Theory and was recently seen in his Tony-nominated role in Mother Play. And Mandy Gonzalez, who has starred in everything on Broadway, from In the Heights to Wicked to Hamilton to most recently Sunset Boulevard. Mandy Gonzalez. Please. Okay, well, that was it. Thank you all. Jill actually gave an amazing overview of New 42, so I'm going to skip a little bit of what we were going to talk about today. But the thing that I do want to start with, because I think it's a good sort of primer for this conversation, which is that New 42, we do believe the arts are a basic human right. And so everything we do is about access and equity for young people to make sure that they have access to theater. So as an example of that, New Victory opened 30 years ago with a $2 ticket, and we have never raised that price. So the hope today is to have a conversation, a discussion around the early years and your experience in the arts. And so I'm going to kick us off, if you don't mind, right away, with just asking, what is your first memory of a live theatrical experience? And anyone can go in any order.
The one I was in first grade was The Elephant's Child. And I really can't remember the first play I ever saw, but I do think about that a lot because I didn't audition or anything. Like, they just cast us in different things. I think because I could read well, I got a part in it. But it makes me think a lot in this context about how important it is to not only have access to the arts, but frankly, relatively easy access to it. Like, you kind of do, especially as a young person, you don't know what's out there. So unless it's kind of thrown in front of you and you kind of accidentally find it, oh, I like doing this, then how the heck do you know? You know. That was more than you wanted. That was my first theatrical experience.
Okay. Thank you for that. Others?
I think the first theatrical experience for me happened with my grandmother. Everything happened with my grandmother. And I grew up in California. She lived in the Valley. And there was a dinner theater called the Showboat Dinner Theater. And you used to be able to see a show, and they had a buffet before you could go and see the show. And my brother had to come to everything because we're only a year apart. And they had all-you-can-eat pickles. And we both love pickles. So it was a way to, like, get him to also go to the show. And I remember we saw Man of La Mancha. And I absolutely loved it. And I remember Aldonza standing on the table. And I can still, like, so vividly picture that. And my grandma, went up to Aldonza after the show to ask if she gave lessons for voice. And she said yes, and that became my first singing teacher. And then after that, at the Showboat Dinner Theater, I was in Fiddler on the Roof. And that's where it all began for me. That was Belka.
And how old were you when that started?
I was about 7 years old when she started taking me to the Showboat Dinner Theater.
Thank God.
And my brother.
Wow. Mine is not as fun. My first live theatrical experience was a field trip to go see the Christmas pageant at the local theater. And I literally, it didn't come back to me until this moment thinking about it. I was like, I remember watching it and being like, oh, I could do that. That was cute. Like, you didn't make me feel anything. Like, I wanted to jump on stage and do it because I was like, yeah, I think I could do something like that. And then the next thing that really moved me, I think, after that was seeing the touring company of Alvin Ailey, seeing them dance. That movement really just like took me back, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that for sure.
And how old were you when that started?
Oh God, the Christmas pageant. I was 6 or 7, probably, in elementary school. And I didn't see the Alvin Ailey touring company until I was in high school. But that really made a big impact in me choosing to do theater. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and I remember seeing, I think when I was 5, a children's theater production of The Sound of Music. And I think because it was kids that were doing it, I was like, similarly, I could do that. But then I'm gonna skip like 3 years to another children's theater production that I saw that was called The Peanut Butter Players. And the cast was all young people, and it was like a luncheon theater. And the cast, 2 people would come to your table and they would say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm so-and-so, and we're gonna take your order. Would you like a hot dog or a salad?" And then everybody at the table would order a hot dog or a salad. They would bring you your hot dog or salad. Then they would say, "Would you like a cookie or a brownie?" And your cookie or a brownie, and then they would say, "Okay, now we have to go put on our makeup and our costumes, and we'll see you after the show." And then they would do the show. And I was like, this is incredible. And so I got to join the Peanut Butter Players years later. And the whole thing, she was like, if you're gonna be an actor, you gotta learn how to wait tables. And so that had a big impact. I've never waited tables since the Peanut Butter Players.
All that experience gone to waste. What's interesting to me is, so you were all sort of 5, 6, and 7. And my guess is if I asked the audience, do you remember your first theatrical experience, almost every hand would be raised, which is not always the case for, let's say, your first day of school or any number of your first sporting event. What is it, do you think, that happens in a room with live performances that make you remember it? So each one of you told a story that I could visualize. Why is that?
I feel like a part of mine, I was so young, I think it was the gathering. It was the communal experience of it. I mean, obviously there was something very magical about watching people on stage, but I do remember we were sitting towards the back to watch The Sound of Music, and I needed to like stand on my knees, and the woman next to me kept going like deep, 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 and where I was like kicking into her leg. And when I was like, "What's a Nazi?" And like that she was like, "Shh, shh, shh," but that it was this thing that I was sharing with other people that I think felt different from like watching television at home or even a movie where it felt like we were all packed in together sharing this experience. So it was as much about what I was seeing on stage as it was about experiencing it with others.
Would you all agree with that?
Yeah, and it makes me think that like I want to even change mine to be like my first theatrical experience was church. Right. That same community, that fellowship, that going to this place, surrendering to this service, this availability, and that same feeling in a theater was like, oh yeah, I know this feeling. I go and I experience, and it moves me and makes me feel things, and I get to respond to it and have an interaction with these people on stage. And so yeah, it's that fellowship and community of coming together as a congregation. And I say that now. I'm like, I go to church 8 times a week.
Right, yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that it's so much about the community. And for me, it was just your imagination could just go to all these different places. And I just remember that excitement. And I think because I grew up with a grandmother who loved theater and loved music so much, I felt like I was sharing that with her, because she brought that love to me, and I was like, oh, right, like this is why we love this. Even when my brother was like, he still knows now because he went to everything, like who Patti LuPone is, like he knows like all the references to theater because of everything he had to watch.
Does he still eat pickles?
He still eats pickles. He loves Family Guy because he called me one day and was like, Mandy, Shapoopy was on Family Guy. They did Shapoopy. And I was like, that's right. That's where you learned it, from me. So, yeah. It was that thing of, this is a place where we go and we belong.
Yeah. And did this experience and these experiences want you to see more theater, or did it make you want to participate in it?
I think for me, both. I wanted to see as much as I could. For me, there wasn't a lot of theater that I went to that young. It was more when I started junior high that I started to go to like bigger shows and things like that. But when I was a kid, it was like that dinner theater, or it was movie musicals that I wanted to watch, and I wanted to be in them.
Yeah, I feel like until I was in high school, really, most of my exposure to the format I wanted, or the thing I wanted to do, was from TV or movies. Like, because I knew from a very young age that what I wanted to do, but I also know, looking back, that I didn't know it from going to a bunch of theater. I knew it from the TV.
Yeah.
I was so lucky because my grandparents also, they were like members of it was a graduate repertory company of the College of Wayne State University. I think it was like the first grad acting theater program, and they were subscribers. And so I was exposed to a lot of theater, and I remember they wanted to take me to a matinee of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and my teacher was like, well, she can go, but she has to come back and tell the class like what it's about. And I guess like I was just like, it starts in a forest. And she was like, wrap it up. We don't want all of this. But that there was something about the actual experience of seeing it that was as impactful. And I don't know if I was projecting like, God, I can't wait to do this. But I think there was something truly that was just about seeing it that hooked me in a way that I'm sure, even if I had read a very watered down version of A Midsummer Night's Dream, or like a third grade version, it would not have been sticky in the way that the actual production was.
And your retelling that story makes us all see you in that age saying like, quiet down. Like I could be like, and the teacher saying wrap it up, and you're like, I haven't even finished the first act.
Exactly,
Like,
do you know how many more acts we have?
This is 90 minutes, no intermission. Right, exactly. At New 42, we do extensive research in why and how the arts are so important to young people. We really focus our work on baby and toddlers through 5th grade, largely. And what the research has shown is field trips are very important. Oftentimes, it is the first experience a young person has. But what was interesting about the work that came out of this particular study was field trips are good. I want to have them continue. But what was most impactful was going to the theater with a trusted adult. Whether it was your parent or a guardian or your aunt or your uncle or your grandparents, that there was something about a person holding your hand, asking you questions or sharing with you what you're about to see, talking to you at intermission, and then talking about it after the show was over. That just doesn't happen on field trips as much. And so the trusted adult, and because what we're constantly trying to do at New 42 is figure out what creates a habit when one doesn't currently exist. And there's something in that, in seeing your first experience and going to theater with a trusted adult. And Mandy, you've already started us off on that because I feel like I know your grandma. I mean, she seems like just a lovely person. But I'm curious, who took you all to the theater, and what role did they play in that experience?
You just made me think about my show choir teacher took us to go see the touring company of Aida, and that was my freshman year of high school, and it was something about her really speaking to us and the understanding of, she taught us choral singing, but then to take us to a show and to have conversation and to do that every year, to take us back. We went back and saw Hairspray and other things that came through, and really getting to sit and talk through what we experienced. Like you said, that hand holding, to be like, how does this make you feel? How does this affect you? What does this bring up in you? How does this heal you? How does this serve you? Really made a difference, and again, helped me in the choosing of like, yeah, I want to do this to people. Like, I want to be on the other side, being able to affect people.
Yeah, cool.
Mine was almost entirely in school, and I haven't thought about this so much until we're doing this, but like, I really don't remember seeing very much theater. Like, we didn't go to see very much theater until later in my life when I had expressed an interest in it, and my parents were like, well, I guess we should take him to see something. But by then I'd been doing it, you know what I mean? And so for me, I'm realizing as we talk, it was either school productions or even like, I don't know where everybody else grew up, if you had this, but like we had like speech and forensic tournaments and stuff. And like we had some really wonderful teachers. Sylvia Popelski was the first one I ever had, and watching other students work on their stuff and listening to her and having her coach us or whatever, she was the hand holder for me in at least explaining how to make an effect. I guess I was sort of learning the effect of whatever we were doing by just doing it instead of always seeing it. But yeah, I do think watching other students do it with her there was a lot of what made me go, this is something. This makes me feel something, and I would like to do in something that eventually I began to see as like, oh, some people are doing it and it feels important. I don't know that mine does, but I know that theirs does, and that's something to aim at.
Yeah. And you remember her, right? I mean,
vivid, yeah.
Your grandmother.
Well, I think my grandmother, but then I think my parents, you know, I grew up in a very working class family. Both my parents worked. My dad worked swing shift at the local glass factory, and so he had Sundays off. And Sundays, my mom needed a break from the three of us, and she said, "Paul, you know, have them watch something." And so my dad, I would always say that we're either related to Elvis or Edward James Olmos, because my father, like those were the only movies that we watched with him on Sundays. And I remember seeing Zoot Suit with my dad, and but on screen, you know, the one that they filmed at, where did they film that? In LA. And I remember my dad talking about the fact that they went and saw that, and seeing myself, you know, a small part of myself, you know, a Jewish Mexican American, but seeing
that's very specific.
We'll talk about it later. But no, to see Chicanos on stage and to see them doing that, it was like, oh wow, like there's a place for me, and I see myself. But it didn't happen when I would go to the theater and I would see different characters. That didn't happen for me unless I was sitting with my dad and watching that kind of movie. Yeah. You know, I didn't see myself in theater.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I also grew up, my parents were working class. It felt like we were there was like money was a big central feature of stress in our house. And there was something about going to the theater with my grandparents, even with my parents, but that felt culturally rich, that I remember going and feeling like fancy in a way that I felt so rarely in any other place in my life. That was the gift, I think, of having grown-ups, you know, take me, but also such early exposure to it felt like a really, it was a special thing to do.
Yeah. It's one of the things I love about the New Victory, because it's such a magnificent theater. Yes. And you have kids walk in who have never been to live theater before, and they see this Oscar Hammerstein, the first built theater in 1900, and they say, this is for us? Like, it's a beautiful thing so I understand what you're saying when you walk into this sort of the majesty of all of it. California, Texas, North Carolina, Michigan, were you in communities that supported this? Were you sort of, I'm not going to judge my question.
The one thing I would say that, and my mother, she retired, I don't remember, 5 years ago, but she was a teacher, not at the exact same time I was in school, but eventually in the same district that I was in. And I know that by the time she was teaching, towards the end, she was doing plays with her students and making sure there were some, but like in the elementary, at least, it wasn't as common. It doesn't seem as it was when I was there. But at the time, yes, I was in a community that very much, they had wonderful theater programs. They had really good theaters, some of the high schools did, and things like that. And so it was supported in that way. Again, to the point I was making earlier of like, it really made it so easy for me. The thing I keep comparing it to is like when I was born, my mother had an upright piano in the house, and eventually, I don't really play that much anymore, sometimes, but I learned how to play, and I took lessons for years, and it was all because I just crawled up on it, because it was there, and I could touch it, and then I was like, oh yeah, blah, 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 but otherwise, I don't know that I would have gravitated towards a piano or any other musical instrument. And so for me, it was very much like that with theater. If it wasn't just kind of happening in our first grade and third grade class, I don't know exactly how I would have gotten to it.
Yeah, interesting. There was a time in our education system where you couldn't get teacher certification at elementary level if you didn't play the piano. It was a requirement to play.
That's so interesting.
That doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
I also just remember, even so early on, my parents feeling like all over Michigan, all of the arts programs were being cut. That there were like always proposals, or there were always like budget measures, and that there was this real, that it is the first thing to go, and that it was like not a core part of a curriculum for an elementary school teacher, and them talking about like how much more, and I was like, yeah, of course we love the arts, but they were like, it actually goes beyond, I think, what you think it does, and I think that that's true.
Yeah. If you look at our educational system, there's a hierarchy in the arts. Many schools have music and visual art, and almost no schools have theater and dance. And there's a huge gap between those that we're trying to fix that. I'm curious, how have the arts affected you as a person, not as an artist? Just a small question.
How have they not affected?
All of us in these sides, we're like,
How have they not affected our
Time.
lives? So, yeah, I think that, like I said, I grew up a part of these two different cultures, and I felt like growing up with the last name Gonzalez, I had my first agent told me that I needed to change my name in order to get roles in theater. This was LA too. But she was like, you need to change it to something less ethnic because, there's nobody out there with your name. And I said no, and I held on to that part of who I was. And it was so important for me, but that was such a big thing, I think, where I grew up in the theater community. I never really felt like I belonged in the theater community in California. I don't think I was given that place to belong, and so that's why I came to New York, because I wanted to have a chance, just like everybody else. I wanted to come, and I didn't have an agent, but I wanted to come, and I could wait in line with everybody else, and it was about your talent. It wasn't about what your last name was or things like that. And so I think that theater and the arts gave me a place to feel like I could be part of something, and I belonged, and it didn't matter, where I came from.
I agree completely with that, other than having a last name that somebody tried to change. Yeah. But now that we're talking about it, I'm thinking, and there's also a major difference, in my opinion, from my experience, and I don't mean this unpleasant or judgmental, but between, like, as an actor doing camera work and doing theater. And the community, the way that you are, most of the time at least, forced to be together, but you have to be together in that way to get it done. And there is an understanding and a sense of, for better or for worse, a family or whatever that gets created. And when I was younger, I especially can look back now and go, boy, that really probably saved me from some harrowing moments that I luckily didn't have to have because I found these people and had this group. But in my adult life, the older I've been getting, the more and more I keep gravitating towards theatrical projects. And I still enjoy doing a lot of the work and camera things. And there are certainly plenty of theater people that are in camera things and whatever, but it's different. And as an adult getting to do theater, still somehow, for me at least, it feels like it contains that seed of what we're talking about at 7 and 8 and 9. It doesn't go away. You can't work in theater as a child or as an adult and it not have that kind of gritty, just here, right now, get it done, let's play. Yeah, but how did that change me as a person? I don't know. I'm here.
Any other thoughts about who you are as a person as a result?
I think I really, for a long time, and this might also say something just about the culture, that I think I felt embarrassed to be an actor for a really long time, where I would always be like, I'm an actor, and because I think the culture feels like, oh, how lucky for you to pursue this hobby for your profession, that there is a kind of, that I really metabolized, that I was I feel like because I do feel so lucky to be an actor, that there's a way that we can devalue what your position is, especially in a culture that I'm not sure totally values the work that we do, or does, but it's in a different way. But I think now, I just went to my 25th college reunion, and my class, there's only 4 of us who are still performing, and the rest of my class was either a teacher, a therapist, or a doctor. And I was like, we have all on some level, I think, not to sound high and mighty as an actor, gone into service or some kind of community care. And I think right now, especially, to feel useful is a really big deal, even if it's for entertainment, but I even, going back to my first experience in the theater, the idea that we can gather feels radical to me at this point, when we are so in our devices, that you guys took time on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. to be in a room for all of us to be together actually feels to me like something different than it did even 5 years ago.
Anarchy in this room. Anarchy.
We're doing it. But that sense of of gathering, of being together, of not just us being a part of a community, but creating community with the people who come to live theater, at this moment actually does feel very, very meaningful to me.
Just what?
The first one to get applause, Celia. Noted.
Keep up.
Noted.
It's not a competition.
All right, we still got time.
Not a competition. Yet. Just a reminder, we will ask if you have audience questions, if you could fill out the index card and hold it up so ushers can grab them. I'm curious now, what was the light bulb or the switch from when you were studying theater, when you were experiencing it in school, to going, oh, I want to be an actor. I want to be a full-time paid artist. How does that happen?
For me, it happened with a vocal teacher who told me about a camp in Florida. I don't know if you guys went, but it was called the Broadway Theater Project, and it was run by Anne Ranking, and I got a scholarship to go there for 2.5 weeks, and they brought professionals to come and teach at that camp, and I remember Gregory Hines came to teach a class, and it's kind of a long story, but they did this thing like you do, if anybody's seen tap, where you get into this tap circle and everybody says challenge, and everybody challenges each other, and we had kids that were such good tappers, and I wasn't, but somehow I got in the class, and I remember I just jumped into that challenge circle, and everybody said, sing, Mandy, sing, because they knew I couldn't dance, and and so I did, sing, Mandy, sing. Don't tap, don't do it to yourself. And so, but I remember after that, he just gave me such applause after that. And he was just so dynamic. And I watched everything that he was in after that, but it changed my life completely. And it made me feel like, oh, I can do this.
Amazing.
And this is what I want to do.
Yeah. How important our teachers are in our life, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Mine's much less dramatic, but it's sort of related to that in a small way. The first leg was that I didn't major in it in my first year in college because I thought, well, that's a stupid choice. What a silly thing to chase. And, which it kind of is. But I realized in that year off it was crucial because I missed it so much. I was like, if I'm going to be a very unhappy old man one day if I don't at least try this. But then the thing that does relate, but in kind of, and maybe it's because none of them were Gregory Hines, but I think of it all the time. Just getting cast in one thing after, whether it was a director's scene in class or maybe the main stage show or anything at all. Every time I got cast in something, I was like, somebody thinks I can do this, other than me. I really think that's what kept me going the whole time. I'm sure it is, in both a literal sense and an emotional sense, going, somebody usually comes out to cast me eventually in something,
So that was the change for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was very similar in the way of I thought of the alternative. What unhappy life would I live if I didn't pursue what was in me to do? My mother raised me to understand that I had gifts to be effective with in the world, that I could do something, that I could help someone else's journey. And I was like, well, I sing and dance and people respond. Theater feels right. It truly was a leap of faith for me. It was get me out of North Carolina by any means necessary. Truly, I moved here at 18 and it was a blind leap of faith of like, okay, great. If I want to be an artist, New York is the place to go do that. So I'm going to audition for this school and we'll see what happens. And it was just the continual trusting of myself and my gifts to be like, all right, that same kind of like, all right, people going, you like what okay, I'm going to keep trying. Anybody else? Okay.
I think mine was very young. I saw the national tour of Les Miserables, which I was just so, it was just one of those things where I was like, oh, it can be like this. And they were auditioning little Cosettes. And I was like, I'm gonna get that part. And I sure didn't. And I remember going home and just lying on the couch and crying. And my mom said, she was like, if you decide to do this, there's gonna be a lot of that. And I remember thinking like, I can do it, I can do that. And I think it's funny when you first asked the question, my initial response, it's funny because Dan Lipton, who's gonna play the piano later, we did this beautiful musical together that I was let go from when it moved to Broadway. And I think that was the moment when I was like, I'm gonna do this. That it's like you have these moments that are like, do I really wanna sign up for what this is gonna be? But it started with not getting Little Cosette and Les Mis, and then was solidified when I was fired from a Broadway show. So.
And it's worked out.
It's okay.
No, it's okay.
Hang in there.
The New Victory Theater is the only theater in New York City solely dedicated to kids and families. So our heart is in it, and we want to make sure that all kids have access to our programs. As an example, any family living in public housing in New York City can see any of our shows free of charge. Applause. So 2 down. I got applause for that, Jim, just so you know.
We are really lagging.
I'm not keeping score, I'm just saying. How have you, if you have, continued this love of theater for the young people in your life? Whether they're your own kids, whether they're your nieces and nephews, godchildren, how are you doing it? Because you should be.
Yeah, sure. Oh, in such a way and nurturing it as much as I can. I have a niece and a nephew, and my nephew, they have different mothers. So my nephew has come to like the past 3 Broadway openings I've had because I'm like, no, you need to see that anything is possible. You need to also experience art for yourself and to see someone doing it. And to, that just tightens our relationship. And then bringing my niece to her first Broadway shows, getting to take her to see Lion King and The Wiz. And when I told her about The Wiz, I was like, we're going to go see The Wiz. She was like, oh, The Wizard of Oz? I was like, yes, but everybody's black. And to see her face go like, wait, what? And to sit in that audience and to see her see herself and to know that feeling for myself when I saw my first show or even the first things of like the song I'll sing later from Porgy and Bess, like that seeing and recognition and that representation of yourself, it makes all of the difference. And so getting to be that representation, not only for my family, but for other kids is like so special. And to get to share those moments at the stage door where people are like, I feel seen. I know that there's a place for me in the world because I saw you do that thing.
How old are your niece and nephew?
10 and 16 now.
Nice.
I have a 10-year-old, and he's a pretty wiggly kid, and it has always been. And it felt to me, I'm not just doing this as a plug to New 42, but I am, that I was like, I'm not gonna pay all that money to see a Broadway show if he can't sit still, and if he's talking to me the whole time. And I also wanted to take him young, and found the New Victory website and all of this programming that they had for young people. And I think like the distinction that, for those of you who do or don't know about the New Victory programming, is that I think Broadway is so special and so singular, but I think what the New Victory is doing almost sometimes feels like, first of all, the programming is international, and it feels almost performance art adjacent sometimes, where the amount of things that he was exposed to by the age of like 4, and that they are so attuned to young, wiggly kids. I was like, this is what it is to live in New York City. To be able to take your 2-year-old to a Swedish circus is like pretty great. But then also thinking about, during the pandemic, we had a virtual subscription to New 42, and to this day, he's like, you think New Victory is gonna put on Emmett Otter's Jug Band again? And I was like, I don't think that is going to happen. But that we watched that throughout the pandemic. So it's like, it served my family in ways, it's like part of why I'm here, that I just feel so lucky to live in a city that is doing this kind of work that I have been such a beneficiary of. My whole family has been.
Well, thank you for that.
Another one.
Next one, I walk. Oh, I got one. Thank you.
Don't give up.
Can you speak to the young people in your life?
Yes, my daughter, she just turned 14 on Sunday, and I take her to everything. Some Like It Hot was one of her favorites. But we go and we see everything. She is my partner in crime for all of it. She's come to openings and so many things, but I expose her to as much as she'll let me. But she loves it.
That's great.
At least that's what she tells me.
I'm not taking a child to the theater. I mean, I support it happening. I think it's a wonderful thing, but I'm not doing it. All it took was something hateful, and then, you know. But I have a godson, and I have my nephew, and I am kidding about what I say in general, but in a very specific way with both of these two young men who I knew were interested in the theater. I kind of I was like, I wish I could be more of an effect in their life. And by the time that they became 15, 16, and it was clear they were going to keep wanting to do this, I did find my way in, and it has really, really felt good to me. Like, both of them, I feel like I'm now an adult presence in their life, and I'm not that great with kids. I mean, I've met your son, and he's wonderful. Well, he's wiggly. No, but yeah, and so I'm really with both of them have helped as much as I can on college auditions and preparing for that. And my nephew ended up at NYU, so he's like a major part of my life now. And me and my husband, we don't have kids, but without the diapers and all the potty training, we now get to have this young person in our lives. It's really, really wonderful.
I also think, like, for Jay and for Jim, this idea, what I was talking about before of like feeling like being an actor is not a legitimate profession, that none of my parents' friends were actors. And that the idea that by bringing young people to the theater, you might offer them this opportunity to say, like, this is something that is a job. You could maybe do this. That I think all of us sort of forged our own way, but that I think in bringing young people to the theater, it's not, that you can possibly open that door as well.
And at New 42, we have a longstanding career development workforce program for just what you're talking about. We also have a no shush policy. So if you come, your child won't be shushed. They're allowed to express themselves as they see fit.
We have do that with adults too. Within reason.
Yeah.
Because again, the audience is a part of the show. Like the show doesn't work without the relationship to the audience, and sometimes audiences can be so just like respectful. You're like, no, respond to us. You get a better show if you like give us the energy. Yeah. So no shushing.
We have great questions from the audience and so little time, unfortunately. But a couple of quick fire questions. Favorite Broadway show of all time?
I'm just going to throw this out, and I may regret it in 2 hours going, oh, damn it, I forgot that one. But the one that's coming to my mind is John Doyle's Sweeney Todd. I'm still wowed when I think about it.
I absolutely love Jerusalem. When I saw that show, it just blew my mind.
I'm going to go Fun Home.
Okay.
Okay, the one that left me like speechless, Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill, like Audra McDonald.
Favorite Broadway mishap that you've had? Favorite?
This was one that I just got to witness, and it was with Celia. So Celia and I, when we did Mother Play together, there were, I think it was called a play in 5 evictions. I think it was 5. You would know. She always had to go eviction number 2, eviction number 3. And we would have a number blast on there. And we would freeze in the dark, and I had her hand in this one particular one, and I could see it said number 4. And she goes, eviction number 3, 4. I squeezed her hand so hard. I was like, I've never been so delighted to be there when somebody fucked up in my life. 3, 4.
That's so good. So I would say that mine happened during Hamilton. I was playing Angelica Schuyler. There was a cover on for Hamilton, and we had rehearsed everything, but it's live theater. And there's a moment during Helpless where we all have to hug Eliza, and then we hug Hamilton, but the turntable is going. And as I was hugging Hamilton, he stepped on my dress. And I thought to myself, surely he's not going to take me down. Surely he's going to let go. But he didn't. And so he just held on to me. And then I just fell. And I'm in this huge dress, so I couldn't get up by myself. And I just looked at my sisters can you give me a hand? And they just kind of kept going with the choreography. I just was helpless. And then finally made it up and continued on with the show. But it was so embarrassing and fabulous and all of it.
Amazing.
During Some Like It Hot, Casey Nicola had to go into the show as Spats one night. It was during COVID. People were down, and he had to go on. And he was on for a solid week. And this is and Casey Nicola is get me off of stage, please, as quick as he could. He really didn't want to be there. But he had a cue line, and he forgot to say it. And we're all standing there waiting for him, and he's just looking blankly at these men. And me and Christian are standing behind the door all right, say the line. And he just goes, oh, fuck. It's sorry, guys. And then said the line, and we went on into this chase. But it was he just, as we say, he went into the white room and just didn't know what was going on.
Last question for you all. The show that you got your equity card.
Eli's Coming at the Vineyard Theater.
I don't remember. Hold on. Keep going.
Kinky Boots, the national tour.
I was an understudy at Manhattan Theater Club for a play called Kinder Transport.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
You don't.
I really don't remember. Well, here's the thing. This is an interesting thing, I think. When working in Houston, I went to undergrad in Houston, and then I worked there. So there were regional companies there or whatever, but most of the work you were going to get weren't with regional companies. So I got offered an equity card with one of the regional companies, and I turned it down because I couldn't keep working. And then a few years later, this is why I don't remember what show it was. I remember when I was moving to New York after grad school, I had to call, and they're like, well, we don't normally give you the card after you've refused it. And I was like, and I explained to them, all right, fine. But so yeah, so I don't know what it was for or what's happening.
Well, you'll let us know.
Yeah.
So this sort of wraps up. We could spend all day talking to the four of you. Just so brilliant. And to thank Celia, who really put this panel together.
Thank you, Celia.
No, you did.
Yeah.
You did. We are going to have to bid adieu to our live stream audience. Thank you all for being here. If you want more information about New 42, please go to new42.org. Goodbye. Now the really fun stuff starts. So we have asked, both Jay and Mandy have offered to sing for us today. Because we are an organization that's so dedicated to kids and families and ensuring that young people have access, we asked them to select a song that was meaningful to them. And so, Jay, you're going to kick us off, if you don't mind sharing with us why this song is meaningful to you.
Yes, I am going to be singing There's a Boat That's Leaving Soon for New York from Porgy and Bess because, I didn't mean to get emotional. When I was 5, my dad gave me a VHS of Porgy and Bess. That was Sidney Poitier and Dorothy Dandridge. And I watched it incessantly. Like, my mom literally last year was like, what was that thing you were watching as a kid all the time on that tape? And I was like, Porgy and Bess. And it was just something, again, about seeing that representation and these beautiful black people emoting and telling this story. And it just sucked me in. And that is, it's so funny that my father didn't understand me wanting to pursue theater because I was like, well, you did it to me. You gave me music. And my father is no longer with us, but I carry him with me in everything that I do and everything that I am. And so that's why I chose this song.
Thank you, Jay. Both Mandy and Jay will be accompanied by the acclaimed music director and composer, Dan Lipton. Dan?
There's a boat that's leaving soon for New York. Come with me. That's where we belong, sister. You and me can live that high life in New York. Oh, come with me. There you can't go wrong, sister. I'll buy you the swellest mansion up on Fifth Avenue. And through Harlem we'll go strutting, and there'll be nothing too good for you. I'll dress you in silks and satins, in the latest Paris styles, and all your blues you'll be forgetting. There'll be no fretting, just nothing but smiles. Come along with me, that's the place. Don't be a fool, come along. Come along. There's a boat that's leaving soon for New York. Oh, come with me. That's where we belong, sister. That's where we belong.
Thank you. Mandy, I assume you're not tap dancing, right? Is that fair to say?
I was going to, but I don't know. I guess I'll sing.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you're sharing with us today?
Yes, so I'm glad that I talked to you guys about my grandmother, who was such a support for me in my pursuit of my dreams. And but my grandmother loved musicals like Anything Goes or anything Ethel Merman or anything like Torch Singers. So Judy Garland live at Carnegie Hall was like my go-to album every day of my life. I'm just bringing this up because Dan Lipton and I will be playing for my Carnegie Hall solo debut next Friday night. Where I'll be singing all of my dear friend Lin-Manuel Miranda's songbook, and I'm very excited about that. But I didn't listen to a lot of what was going on musically otherwise than what I listened to with my grandmother. And it was in middle school when we did a field trip to go and see Sunset Boulevard, starring Glenn Close. And the first time I heard Andrew Lloyd Webber's music, and it completely like changed my life. And I listened to that album constantly. I never thought one day I would play Norma Desmond, but you know, that's just how it goes. But it really was, this past year, doing that role really was a full circle for me. But this is from Sunset Boulevard.
moment with so much to live for. The whispered conversation in overcrowded hallways. So much to say, not just today, but always. We'll have early morning madness. We'll have magic in the making. Yes, everything's as if we never said goodbye. Yes, everything's as if we never said
Thank you. I am now a complete mess. But partly I'm a mess because when both of you were performing, I was seeing you as 6, right? When you were telling those stories, and that's, I mean, it's just so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. I also just was thinking about like how all of you are here because you care about coming to the theater and you care about us as theater artists and what it is to build a new generation of audiences and how important at a time when our attentions are so compromised, what it is to take young people to the theater, to give them experiences like this, but also to build their attention feels so important to me right now. And like how grateful I am to all of you for being here, but also I worry about our art form. And that we are gonna have a whole generation of young people that are like, I just can't really sit through that. I don't really wanna watch that. And how important places like New 42 are for this art form to endure. We have to build the next generation of theater goers. And so.
That is a perfect segue to the one thing I'm gonna ask each of you to do, with the exception of Jim. And that is,
I'll get a child and take him to the
I've heard that before, that you all have a young person in your life. It doesn't have to be the new Victory. It should be the new Victory. But please take a young person to the theater. You have no idea the impact it has. I mean, we heard the stories here, right? So it's a small ask, and I just ask that each of you think about a young person in your life and take them to a live theatrical performance. Please help me thank this amazing panel. And a shout out and a thank you to an organization that I have held dear for my entire life, having grown up in the city. The 92 NY, 92nd Street Y is an amazing institution. Thank you all. New42.org. That's where you get your tickets. Thank you all. Have a good day.